Good afternoon to you. 306 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, the lead reporter on the Fanni Willis saga. She's broken so many of the stories involving that attorney's corruption. Katelynn Richardson joins us at 3:30. On the border, we've got Tom Homan joining us at 4 o'clock. Boy, he's got some fire to spit coming up. And then 4:30, we'll talk to Rob Greenway with the Heritage Foundation on the state of the American military, an updated report on that subject. 5 o'clock, the man who published Hunter Biden's laptop for the world to see, Garrett Ziegler, is here. We'll talk about his ongoing litigation, being sued by Hunter Biden. Nathan Brinkman is also here at 5:30. We talk school choice with him, and we talk to you at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. On another jam-packed Vince Coglianese show on a Friday. It really is so nice to have you joining us. Hey, you know, we've got Joe Biden flew out to Wisconsin yesterday. And he goes to that brewery. Remember, he sounded like the Swedish chef. He couldn't even speak in English sentences yesterday. He was just bopping along, making no sense whatsoever. And then he met with some union workers for a photograph, and standing next to him is Amy Klobuchar. And the union guys, blue-collar guys, they're all wearing their plaid shirts and their high-vis vests over them, and standing in between them is Amy Klobuchar holding up a beer like she's never drank a beer in her life. And right next to them is Joe Biden, and he's got a hard hat on. Somebody gave him a hard hat with a bunch of bumper stickers stuck to it, and he's wearing it backwards. The hard hat is completely backwards. And I'm not a guy who wears a hard hat in my line of work, although perhaps we should on some days. But normally the hard hat, right? You cinch it from the back. You tighten it up on the back. The part that you use to tighten the hard hat, it's on his forehead. And it's one of the funniest photos of the week. So that's the state of the presidency right now. Joe Biden posing while wearing his hard hat backwards. Notice Donald Trump never puts on any airs whatsoever when he goes to these job sites. He always is in a suit with an overextended red tie, and he's perfectly comfortable with who he is. He's not trying to fake anybody out. And Joe Biden, old lunch bucket Joe, posing with his hard hat on backwards yesterday. So that was fun. Also, have you noticed that all of a sudden, as Donald Trump moves to, basically become the nominee of the party, that I don't know what it is. Maybe that's the impetus for this, but a bunch of Republicans all across the country seem to be finding their spines right now. Have you noticed this? Republicans, I'm so used to Republicans in power who disappoint us that I'm, obviously on this show, we're often very judgmental of them for that. But right now, there's just something encouraging going on. I don't know if it's in the water. I don't know if it's just as Donald Trump moves closer to officially becoming the nominee, there's some recognition that, hey, maybe we should pay attention to the voters. But let me just line up a couple of examples for you real quick. First and foremost, as we started this week, there was this threat that the Republicans in the Senate were going to play along with Chuck Schumer to pass a massive, disgusting, disgraceful amnesty bill. And all reporting indicates that it was Donald Trump who killed that effort. That Trump came in and said, no, we're not doing an amnesty. Now, the way the media is trying to spin this is now, as I mentioned yesterday, they're trying to say, oh, the border's in crisis, and Donald Trump wants it to stay in crisis because he wants a political victory out of America's suffering. That's the way they're spinning all of this. That, of course, is not true in any sense of the word at all. Donald Trump killed a horrific amnesty bill that was designed to hamstring an incoming administration from getting control of the border chaos. That's the truth. And so some recognition even among the establishment guys, the McConnell guys in the United States Senate, this isn't going to work. Donald Trump's not for it. We should scuttle it now. And thank the good Lord it was scuttled. So that's example number one. Example number two, Republican governors yesterday linking arms all across the country and saying we are not going to stand by while the Biden administration opens our border and allows Texas to be steamrolled and cuts open Texas's border barriers. In fact, we're going to stand in support of Texas and its constitutional right to thwart an invasion. So yesterday, it's a huge story, and the corporate media has done a lot to try and downplay this. They to the extent that they've barely covered it. But half of the nation's governors, all Republicans, have gotten together and said, we're not for this. We stand with Texas. They did that yesterday. They did. The only exception among Republican governors was Vermont Governor Phil Scott, who's a Biden voter anyway. He's a whack job. So he didn't support this effort. But everybody else did. Everybody else did. All these Republicans did. And that's, again, a huge story, and I would say long overdue. I know you feel that way too. But a big deal. A big deal. And on that story, I've got audio for you today. Just in case you're wondering, is the White House following this with any intensity? Well, if you're the White House press secretary, the answer is no. She has no idea. As of today, she had no idea. And I don't think this is a ruse. I don't think this is one of those things where, oh, she knew, she's just lying. No, she's stupid is the answer here. She had no idea these 25 Republican governors got together, condemned the Biden administration, and are saying they will stand up to this on behalf of the United States and the Constitution. Here is Karine Jean-Pierre, Karinge today, being asked a question about this and asking for clarification because she doesn't know anything about it.
Does the president have any response to at least 25 Republican governors signing a joint statement supporting Texas in its standoff with the U.S. at the border?
So here's what I would say.
Okay, first of all, it's not a standoff with the U.S. It's on behalf of the U.S. It's a standoff with Joe Biden, with the federal government. The questions these people ask, break them down. Think clearly before you ask these questions, unless you're just trying to deliver lefty talking points, which may very well be the goal here. But it's not a fight with the U.S. It's a fight for the U.S.
So here's what I would say. My message to those, how many governors in that letter?
How many?
25.
25 governors. I would say to them that, are they, you said Republican governors?
Yes.
Oh, my God. She has no idea. This is the first time she's hearing about it. And so she's just going to freestyle an answer now.
I would say to them that if they truly want to help with the issue at the border, with the immigration system, that they need to talk to the congressional members, the senators in their state.
This is a lie.
That's what they need to do.
The laws are on the book. You're supposed to secure the border. We don't need a new law to indicate that.
They need to ask them to make sure that they have the resources they need within their respective states to take action, right? To actually deal with a broken system.
The Border Patrol doesn't want any more money. They want the border secured.
The way that we deal with this is legislatively. The way that we deal with this is for Congress to act.
No, it's not. It's to secure the border. What she's saying is to deliver amnesty.
And so that's what those 25 Republican governors need to do. They really want to help. They really want to assist. They really want to see change with the immigration system. They really want to fix the challenges that we see at the border. Then they should talk to their senators and their congressmen or congresswomen who are in their states. That's how we get this going. And we are appreciative of the senators right now, both Republican and Democrats, who are doing just that. And we want to come to a bipartisan.
What is she talking about? I thought the Senate thing was dead. I was hoping anyway. So hopefully that's not an indication that it's continuing a big amnesty package. But that's Karine Jean-Pierre. Well, chances are she has no idea because she didn't know that there were 25 Republican governors who got together yesterday to condemn her boss's actions. And maybe she has no idea what's happening in the Senate either. One can hope. So that's where we are on that issue. Also, real quickly, Greg Abbott is speaking out about this. He talked to Tucker Carlson. Abbott is still in India. He shouldn't be in India. He should be in Texas, but he's still in India right now. He did a phone interview with Tucker Carlson today. And during that interview, Tucker's very first question is, what happens if Joe Biden federalizes the Texas National Guard? Are you ready? Greg Abbott says, yes, we are prepared.
If the administration declares that it plans to federalize the National Guard of the state of Texas, your National Guard, what will be your response?
Well, first, I'll be shocked. That would be a boneheaded move on his part, a total disaster. But for one, as you might imagine, we are prepared in the event that unlikely event does occur to make sure that we will be able to continue exactly what we've been doing over the past months, and that is building these barriers, whether it be the concertina wire or other anti-crime border barriers, whatever we've been building. The Biden administration is now trying to attack us because of it. And we will continue to do exactly what we're doing to expand our denial of illegal entry into the state of Texas.
In fact, I'm seeing reports today, Ali Bradley and others have been tweeting about this, but Texas is now expanding the mileage of border barrier that they're installing well beyond Shelby Park, which is, of course, that 2.5-mile stretch that's highly contested. Texas controls it. The feds have given Texas a deadline of today to essentially abandon it. Texas has set up yours, and right now that standoff continues. Greg Abbott telling Tucker that his state law enforcement can actually arrest illegals and handle them in the United States, in Texas.
Can you envision a scenario in which you would put armed state employees on the border instead of the National Guard of Texas?
We do have other armed state employees on the border as we speak right this minute, and that's the Texas Department of Public Safety, as well as other law enforcement officers, as well as National Guard from other states. And you can be assured there will be more National Guard from other states and more law enforcement officers within the state of Texas and other states. And, Tucker, I just signed a new law in the state of Texas that will go into effect on March the 5th that authorizes any law enforcement officer in the state of Texas to be able to arrest anybody coming across the border illegally.
There you go. Okay, so Texas is increasing the available legal options they have for stopping illegal immigration into their state. Additionally, I've been wondering, and I've been trying to put this question to the White House without success so far. I would like an answer on this. When was the last time that Joe Biden spoke with Greg Abbott? You have this huge problem, obviously, on this huge border, predominantly with Texas. And has the president of the United States once in these last few weeks had any conversation with the Texas governor to try and resolve this, to see how we could fix this problem? And the answer to that, we find out today from the governor, is no.
Have you spoken to the president or anyone from the Biden White House about what appears to be an imminent collision?
I have not, to be clear. I have spoken to the president about the border. I met him on a tarmac in El Paso and talked to him directly about what was going on. I handed him a letter that had in it immediate solutions he could take that would immediately secure the border without the need of any new law to be passed. Despite the fact that I handed him on altogether 8 different letters, he has refused to ever respond. My point in telling you that, we have laid down the precursor of what's called Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution to show that we have been invaded, and we have demanded support from the president to safeguard our state.
He's referencing the portion of the Constitution that says the federal government has an obligation to protect the states against invasion.
And they have refused to do so 8 times, and that authorized me to declare an invasion under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution to make sure that Texas is going to be able to use every tool in our arsenal to defend our state.
Yeah, and then he, of course, references his constitutional right. It's within his constitutional obligations to defend his state from invasion. So the Constitution is on his side. Greg Abbott also saying that he expects every one of these Republican governors, almost everyone, to send their National Guard to help.
Of the couple of dozen Republican-led states who've pledged support for you, how many do you think would send National Guard to Texas?
I'll be shocked and disappointed if almost all of them do not send. There have been about 10 so far that have sent National Guard or other law enforcement. They now are joined together with us, and this is a fight for the future of America, and they all know it. And so I believe that they will all be in on December.
Yeah, you do wonder if they're all sending National Guard, if all 25 of these Republican governors send their National Guard to support the border. Will Biden federalize all of them? Will he tyrannically seize control of them? And to the extent that the president is capable of doing this, which he is, federalizing the National Guard, it's for the interest of protecting the integrity of the country, not making it more chaotic, not aiding and abetting an invasion. More on Republicans and what's happening. There's some stories coming out of Georgia as well, which you'll find very interesting, involving Fanni Willis, the Republican state Senate there, announcing something very big today and confronting what appears to be a deeply corrupt Democrat prosecutor. It's all kind of amazing, and it's worth you knowing about. Coming up, 3. So you got Republican senators scuttling an amnesty bill this week, reportedly at the urging of Donald Trump. Excellent. Republican governors now linking arms with Texas to protect the border, including sending the National Guard. Perhaps all of those states doing that very thing. Greg Abbott says he'd like to see that, expects that. Excellent thing. And then this, breaking this afternoon from Georgia, the Republican-led Senate in the Peach State has now launched a special investigation into Fanni Willis, the Democrat prosecutor who's going after Donald Trump down there. The Georgia State Senate voting 30-19 to create this special committee to investigate Fanni. 6 Republicans and 3 Democrats will populate the committee. It has full subpoena power. It doesn't require the support of the Georgia House or the governor, and it's ready to go. And they can require testimony under oath. So that's already going, and that's like the whole Senate was like on board 30-19. That's huge, and they're going to begin really digging in here to what's going on with Fanni Willis, especially as we see all these allegations of corruption by her office, including that she's sleeping with one of her subordinates, this guy Nathan Wade, all allegedly, remember, but she has not in any meaningful way denied this in public, and he's been paid a lot of money, and then he turns around and buys all these airline tickets to fancy destinations, flies her all over the planet. They're having a grand old time on the taxpayer dime, and and then not disclosing any of it. She didn't put this into her financials. She's been hiding this from the public that she's received this. If you're a public official and you're receiving gifts, I don't know what the number is. I think it's over $100 in her case. You're supposed to be disclosing it on your financials. She hasn't been doing that. She's been covering that up. So this is all a disaster. It's such a disaster that even the women of The View today were saying that this is kind of a problem. That's how you know it's really bad. That's how you know it's really bad. What will it take for Joe Biden to get that treatment from The View? How much worse does it need to get? So there's that. That's a couple of amazing stories. Republicans finally locating their spines, inserting them, and then acting, at least to an extent. We'll keep tracking it. Coming up, the woman who's been breaking all of the stories involving Fanni Willis down in Georgia will be with us. That's Katelynn Richardson, just moments away. We need more time to cover all the breaking news. Just give me a few more hours of radio. I promise I'll fill it. We've got Tom Homan coming up at 4 o'clock. Rob Greenway from Heritage will be here at 4:30. We'll talk about the state of our military. Garrett Ziegler, the man who published Hunter Biden's laptop to the internet, is here at 5. He's battling it out with Hunter in court. And 5:30, Nathan Brinkman talks school choice with us. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. I'd be so grateful for your contributions, too, on a Friday. I do have audio coming up of a reporter at the White House just moments ago, just absolutely furious that the White House has not yet federalized the National Guard in Texas, demanding the Biden administration go full tyrant and open up the border and fight these Republican governors across the country. It is amazing what's happening. I'll share that with you coming up. But before I get there, I do have a guest standing by to talk about what's happening in Georgia with this prosecutor who's trying to destroy Donald Trump, the Fulton County District Attorney Fanni Willis, who has a big scandal of her own. And the reason we know so much about it is because of my next guest. Katelynn Richardson is a contributor to the Daily Caller News Foundation, an excellent reporter who's been breaking all of these stories and joins us now. Katelynn, great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, too. Thanks for having me on.
It is a remarkable saga, Katelynn, and the latest thing, as I understand it, is that Fanni Willis has not actually disclosed on her obligated financial disclosure forms all of the benefits that she's been receiving from a man who works with her and allegedly she's dating. What can you tell us?
Right. So elected officials in Fulton County are required to file annual financial disclosure reports and disclose gifts or favors above $100 for any prohibited source, which would include someone doing business with the county. Nathan Wade has a contract with the county, and so he would be covered under that. And Fanni Willis did not disclose in 2022 anything received from Wade. Now, we know for sure, based on bank statements, that Nathan Wade purchased a ticket to Miami in Willis's name in 2022.
In other words, that was something that should have been disclosed and was not.
Yeah, that's what talking to local attorneys and ethics experts, they told me that should have been on her form, and we're questioning why she didn't include that.
Maybe she got a great deal. Maybe it was under $100.
Well, the ticket was actually $444
Oh.
according to the bank statements. And on the same day that ticket was purchased, Nathan Wade also made payments to the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line that were, exceeding $1,000. Obviously, those don't have her name attached, but if that was also something that was given to her, that should also have been disclosed.
How much money has Nathan Wade been paid by the taxpayers of either the state or federal government?
He's been paid over $654,000 from the district attorney's office since 2022, and his contract started in November 2021.
And what is her salary?
The amount that he is making is exceeding her salary, which is part of the problem here is that this contract is greater than what would be typical in Fulton County.
Right. Yeah. Fanni Willis's salary is something like $200-something thousand. It's not anywhere close to his. It's still a lot of money. But what it sounds like is, he's been getting a ton of cash because she hired him. And do we know, did their relationship start prior to her hiring him? Again, allegedly, did their intimate relationship start prior to his start date there?
The allegations in the motion, it cites sources in the area, but it's not super clear when their relationship started. Mm-hmm. But he did file for divorce the day after the contract with Willis's office began.
Right, and so that divorce is ongoing. It sounds like it's a very messy affair right now.
Yeah, it's ongoing, and Fanni Willis actually was subpoenaed to testify in the divorce proceedings. This week, a judge allowed her to, avoid that deposition that was scheduled for this week, but she could still potentially, in coming weeks, be called on to testify.
One of her lawyers was arguing. I saw a clip of the lawyer arguing that she shouldn't have to testify because she's just too busy prosecuting the former president of the United States. I don't know. Do judges normally say, "Oh, okay, then you don't have to testify. You're just too busy"?
The judge wasn't thrilled with that argument during the hearing. He actually told the attorney not to bring it up. But yes, she did claim that Nathan Wade's wife, by making these filings, was actually obstructing justice, obstructing the Trump case. But again, the judge didn't seem to credit that argument.
Oh, good. Finally, a judge with his head on his shoulders, it sounds like. So today, we also find out that the state Senate in Georgia has launched a special committee to investigate Fanni Willis. How much trouble is she in, would you say? When you talk to experts, legal analysts and ethics experts and people from the outside who are looking at this assessing it, is she in some sort of peril here?
There's a lot going on. Obviously, as you said this morning, the state Senate approved this committee, which would be able to have the power to subpoena and call for documents. But also in court coming up on February 15th, there's going to be a hearing on the original motion that the Trump co-defendant filed, making all of these allegations. And she's also going to have to file an answer in court on February 2nd. So she's going to have to give an account for this beyond what she's already said. She made statements shortly after the allegations came out in church, claiming that, claiming this was all stemming from racism, and all three prosecutors were paid the same amount, which, based on our reporting, we know now isn't true. But yes, to answer the question, she is going to have to respond to this.
My understanding also is that Fanni Willis has actually in the past had conflicts of interest with 2020 election cases from which she's been removed. What do you know about that?
Yeah, she was removed earlier for political bias by the judge earlier.
Yeah.
And that obviously this is another related issue. Part of this morning, actually, one of the Georgia state representatives also submitted something for her to potentially be impeached, submitted a resolution calling for that, claiming that the Trump probe, was political bias.
Yes.
So that would tie in there. It's another thing to keep watching going forward.
If she's impeached, or if, for some reason she has to resign as a result of all of this, what does that mean for the case that she has brought against Trump?
Well, it could be assigned to another attorney.
Yes.
That would probably be the course of action that would happen. But part of this original motion filed by Trump co-defendant Michael Roman was calling for the case to be dismissed entirely. So we're going to have to wait for that hearing on the 15th before Judge Scott McAfee to see exactly what happens, if Willis will be disqualified, if the case will be dismissed.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of other dramatic components to this. One is that I saw that the Trump team is seeking to have Fanni Willis thrown off the case for racial bias because she went and she spoke before a black church in a very public statement recently, and they say that she demonstrated racial animus towards Trump and his co-defendants, and was insisting that the criticisms of her are entirely and Nathan Wade are based on race and not on any merit-based category.
Yeah, so Trump just yesterday, he moved to adopt that original motion by that co-defendant who made these allegations. And in that filing, as you just said, his attorneys alleged that she's trying to, introduce racial bias into this case and is actually violating Georgia's rules of professional conduct by doing that. During that speech, she went through the three prosecutors on the case. She said, I hired all of these people and they're only attacking one of them.
Yes.
Referencing Nathan Wade because of his race. So obviously Trump's attorneys see a problem there.
Well, you had a report on this subject. So after she gave that speech, I was fascinated to see your reporting because she claimed during that speech that she paid all of these three subordinates the same exact amount of money. She's like, I hired three different people. I pay them all the same. They're only attacking the black guy. That was basically, I'm summarizing her remarks. But then you reported, actually, no, that's not true. Nathan Wade was being paid substantially more, at least at the outset, than the actual RICO expert that she hired, a guy who would actually be qualified to be a part of the prosecuting team. What did you learn?
Yeah, the breakdown on that is based on contracts that we obtained. Nathan Wade is being paid $250 an hour since the start of his contract, but the attorney who's known as the top RICO expert in the state, John Floyd, was only being paid $150 when his initial contract was started, and as recently as May 2023 was only being paid $200 an hour. So that essentially debunks her claim that she paid all three the same hourly rate.
Yeah, that's for sure. You've got the paperwork. You've got the literal receipts on the subject. All right. Thank you, Katelynn Richardson. I really appreciate your reporting and your time today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. That's Katelynn Richardson with the Daily Caller News Foundation. And I mean it when I say it. She really has been the source of so much critical reporting on what's happening with Fanni Willis, this Fulton County District Attorney, down in Georgia. So I'd pay attention to Katelynn's reporting on this. Let me go back now to this audio I was telling you about. We do have, we've got a situation here where at the White House today, a reporter by the name of Andrew Feinberg was just tossing questions to Karine Jean-Pierre. And this guy is a big tyranny enthusiast. He was upset that Joe Biden has not yet federalized the National Guard. He works for a website called The Independent. This may actually be the UK Independent. Here is Andrew Feinberg asking Karine Jean-Pierre today why they haven't taken over Texas's National Guard yet.
On the subject of the border and the Texas Guard, I understand, you want to refer some of these questions to DHS because DHS controls the Border Patrol, but at a certain point, Texas National Guard soldiers and National Guard soldiers from other states are being used to frustrate federal authority. They are being used to get in the way of federal immigration enforcement and to flout a court order from a federal court.
Now, let me just pause to emphasize something here. He is a liar. Either that or he's completely ignorant or some combination of both. Texas is not flouting a court order. The court order in the first place was imposed against the Biden administration. The Supreme Court, at least for now, has vacated that injunction and said, okay, you can keep cutting through this border barrier while it's being litigated. So it doesn't, again, for the 10,000th time, this is not related to Texas's behavior. They can keep putting up all the border wall they want. That's not the issue here. It's the federal government's behavior. This guy, Andrew Feinberg, apparently has no idea what he's talking about either. It's a big ignorant room.
At what point does the president step in and say, enough of that, these are American soldiers, I am federalizing the National Guard and ordering them to let the Border Patrol do their jobs because they took an oath to the Constitution and I am their commander-in-chief.
And also, they wouldn't be doing their jobs. They'd be betraying the job that they signed up for.
When does enough become enough?
So I'll say this. I'm not going to speculate on any actions the president could use. I'm just not. I'm just not going to do that. It is very clear, and I would remind everyone that the circumstances under which the federal government can mobilize a state's National Guard are outlined in the law, right? So that I'll leave that there.
Okay, that's an important statement from the dummy. What she's laying out is that it's on the table still. As far as the White House is concerned, federalizing the National Guard in Texas is on the table. She said those authorities exist. I will just leave that there, she declares.
But I'm just not going to get into speculations on any actions the president's going to take at this time. And I'm going to reiterate, if these Republican governors actually cared. Okay,
I don't want to hear this. So that's her saying that what they need to do is, just pass amnesty. That's the only way out of this. I'll fast forward through a very long-winded, nonsensical answer that she gives and bring you back to the next Andrew Feinberg question, which is equally crazy.
Thing to do on behalf of their constituents. That is not politics.
But what I'm saying is that this appears to be a concerted effort led by the governor of Texas and joined by Republican governors, encouraged by the Republican likely nominee for president, who I know you cannot talk about up there, to flout federal authority, to undermine federal authority. And you don't...
To rely on their constitutional authority.
...seem to be willing to say the president will uphold the authority of the federal government.
So I've already answered this question multiple times, and I'm happy to repeat myself to you, Andrew.
She doesn't sound happy.
Number one, the president has taken this incredibly seriously. Incredibly seriously. When you have a president for their first legislative action,
it's like a spit take
with immigration, and put forth a comprehensive...
His first legislative action was amnesty.
...plan to Congress, because that's the way you're going to actually deal with this issue.
No.
3 years ago. 3 years ago, Andrew. And no action has been taken by Congress.
Thank God.
When you have a president that has been working with negotiators via, obviously, his team here with Republicans and Democrats.
Which means Biden's not talking to anybody. That's what that means. He's been doing it via his team.
In the Senate, to have a real conversation. To talk about, in good faith, to talk about comprehensive ways to deal with policy, comprehensive ways to deal with funding, to deal with the immigration system. That's a president that's taking it very seriously. The president had Republicans and Democrat leaders here and ranking members of those committees. In that conversation, had to deal with Ukraine, but that came up as well. And the president said it is important for Congress to act. We have been saying this. If you have a Republican governor that is playing political stunts and continues to do that.
Playing political
and
stunts.
put actually the Border Patrol agents in harm's way and preventing them to do their job.
The Border Patrol agents love this. This is helping them do their job.
That's a political stunt. We're going to call that out too. DHS has taken action. DOJ has taken action. That's a president that's taking it really seriously. I can't speak to DOJ actions, obviously, but those things are being taken very seriously.
Obviously.
Because
I'm unaware of what they are.
Patrol agents need to get to the area to do their jobs, to enforce the law.
That's so crazy. They're not enforcing the law. They're breaking it. Okay. More ahead, but that's what's happening at the White House. You literally, reporters not speaking truth to power. They're begging for more government. Govern us harder, the reporters scream. Okay, look, with all of this going on, I definitely want to hear from our next guest. Tom Homan has a lot to say about this dispute between the federal government and the United States of America, truly the American people fighting back against our federal government. It's amazing. Tom Homan reacts.